The Galactic Empire scanned Earth. No shields. No fleet. Just one half-dead war criminal in a bunker. They called it a mercy kill. But when they fired the first shot, Earth didn't beg, it answered. And now the most feared empire in the galaxy? It's not afraid of us. It's afraid of what we woke up. The transmission shattered every comm line on Earth simultaneously. No encryption. No preamble. Just 3 words. Sterilization begins now. Then came the fleet, silent, cold, and endless. Ships shaped like obsidian bones appeared in orbit, unblinking eyes turning toward Earth. Governments scrambled. Defense ministers stuttered. Satellites died without warning. Power grids blinked out in synchronized failure. And in the bunker buried beneath Antarctica's crust, the failsafe unlocked. Colt Virex cracked open one bloodshot eye. About damn time! His voice was gravel soaked in gasoline. The lights overhead flickered. The AI, an outdated military construct stitched together with duct tape code and exiled algorithms, buzzed to life. Subject Colt Virex. Status: excommunicated. Clearance revoked. Override it, he grunted, wiping ice from his beard. Command code: kick their teeth and dash go. Silence. Then a click. A deep thrum as old hardware booted. The AI changed its tone. Code bastard confirmed. Earth hands you the gun. He stood, joints popping. 47 years old, most of them spent winning enemy kill zones or crawling out of failed peace treaties. His uniform hung in tatters on a rusted rack. He didn't put it on. Just the sidearm. Just the old knife with the blood still dried between the teeth. Then he limped to the terminal. Give me a sitrep. Imperium Spore a Class V purge fleet. 1,200 vessels. 6 planetary erasers. Timeline: 9 hours to total biosphere collapse. Good, he muttered. Means we've got time for a welcome party. Earth Defense Command recommends non-engagement. Diplomatic channels opened. They believe surrender is optimal. Surrender? He laughed once, dark and low. Send them a fruit basket from me. Filled with grenades. He accessed the last black file ever written under his name. Project Raise. Unauthorized, untested, and buried under 17 war crimes worth of legal red tape. It was a relic, half scavenged from alien tech, half rewritten by psychotic engineers during the Mars riots. They called it uncontainable. Unpredictable. He called it beautiful. He stabbed the command key. Wake the demon. Raise activation in 10. 9, 8. Make it 3. The AI paused, hesitated, then complied. A tremor rolled through the core of the planet. Not physical. Digital. A pulse that hijacked every dormant satellite, every retired relay, every deep space trash probe Earth ever forgot. Raise was a ghost code, built not to kill directly but to whisper into machines. To climb into an enemy's code and infect not just systems, but logic itself. At that exact moment, aboard the Imperium flagship Vorikten, the Admiral screamed. Something is speaking inside our bridge AI. Human language, but inverted, mirrored through dreams. Virex watched from his black glass monitor. Ship after ship stalled. One collided with another and vaporized on impact. The Admiral's face was now looped across our skies via a hijacked orbital lens. Let the world watch, Virex whispered. Let them see what happens when you wake up the wrong species. Earth's High Command still tried diplomacy. Still sent messages into the void. Still pretended that this was a misunderstanding. Virex knew better. He accessed what the files labeled. Raise Phase 2. The part even the engineers warned him not to touch. The part marked with one word: memory. He pressed it. Halfway across the system, a fleet commander collapsed, shrieking into the floor. His eyes bled. He began to scream a battle chant in a dead alien language. One no human should have known. One Colt Virex learned by accident when he found the Raise core inside a derelict shipwreck that predated Earth's moon by 1 billion years. The Imperium called themselves gods. They had erased dozens of civilizations, crushed empires, burned libraries the size of continents. But there was one species they hadn't just destroyed, they'd tried to forget them. A species that didn't go quietly. One that fought so hard, so furiously, they poisoned memory itself with the trauma of resistance. Earth hadn't invented rays. Earth had just inherited it. Still with me? Virex said to the AI. You are now broadcasting to the entire fleet. Good. He leaned in, voice razor sharp. To the shiny bastards up top, you came here thinking we were soft. Easy. Weak. You scanned our cities and laughed. You saw no defenses and smiled. That was your mistake. He let it hang. We don't build walls here. We build traps. We don't launch fleets. We load the gun and let the invaders pull the trigger. You just woke something older than your empire, and you jammed your brain right into its teeth. He paused to sip stale coffee. Still awful. You should have asked what happened to the last gods who came here. The AI added its own flourish. Fleet status, 39% infected. 22% inert. 11% actively terminating each other. Remaining vessels fleeing. Spin the message one more time, Virex said. Make sure they all hear it. Confirmed. On the bridge of the Imperium Command Dreadnought, their central AI began repeating human speech. You targeted Earth. The last ones who did are still screaming in the dark. Virex stretched, cracked his back, and loaded a fresh clip into his sidearm. Not bad for a planet of apes. He limped back to his chair, sat, and pulled out the half-burnt photo of his old squad. All dead. All buried under a treaty no one remembered signing. Sleep well, boys. I think we just reminded the galaxy what a cornered species does. He didn't smile. But the AI did. Message sent. Response? Silence. He nodded once. One warning was all they got. The Earth Defense Command sent another communique. Stand down. Await resolution. Do not provoke. Colt Virex didn't even open it. He was too busy rerouting a dead Russian spy satellite through a 30-year-old orbital junk net. Every bit of garbage ever launched now had one new purpose: kinetic velocity warfare. Primitive tech with terminal intent. Old junk's about to make new holes, he muttered. The AI's voice buzzed in his ear, mechanical and amused. Satellite alignment complete. Got spikes online. Fire the bastards. There was no flash. No beam. No glorious cinematic arc. Just silence. Then impact. One moment, an Imperium landing barge floated serene above the Amazon. The next, it vaporized, skewered from orbit by a titanium bolt moving at Mach 15. The shockwave turned rainforest into glass. Seconds later, another barge dropped over Europe. Another spike fell. No heat signature. No warning. By the time they realized what was happening, 5 ships were gone, each erased by what the Imperium referred to, terrified and confused, as primitive debris murder sticks. In the command bridge of the Spora dreadnought Threxus Tal, Admiral Von Tal ordered every sensor recalibrated. The AI screamed about quantum intrusion. Organic crew bled from their eyes. What they saw made no sense. The humans are not firing weapons. They are repositioning history. Back in the bunker, Virex watched the data climb. 35% combat effect loss in 10 minutes. We're making good time, the AI replied. Incoming message from Unified Earth Council. Subject: unauthorized aggression. Virex rolled his eyes. Tell them to go iron their peace flags. He flipped open the encrypted chest. Inside, exocombat harness, pulse disruptor, thermal core blade. A gift from the people who once court-martialed him. Now their last hope. Send the pulse to the others. Confirming. Team Bastard receiving. Halfway across the planet, a dozen operatives in exile got the ping. Former commanders, engineers, outlaws, code burners. Every one of them thought they'd die in obscurity. Now they suited up. Virex keyed into the next phase. Target: down dreadnought over Southern Pacific. Coordinates locked. Entry vectors uploaded. Let's go knock. Within minutes, Virex stood atop a scorched high-altitude drop deck, strapped into an exo-harness, staring down the stratosphere. Never thought I'd be skydiving with a war crime. The AI's tone didn't change. You designed it. He smiled, and jumped. 10 seconds of silence. Then re-entry. Earth's atmosphere screamed. The air cracked. Virex fell like a meteor with a pulse rifle and a grudge. Around him, the others fell too, black armored ghosts riding fire. When they landed, the dreadnought groaned, hull breached. The Imperium's prized ship was about to learn what human fury sounded like from the inside. The interior was organic. Breathing. Alien. The floor writhed. The walls pulsed. But the squad didn't hesitate. They moved through corridors like reapers. One operative lobbed a corrosion grenade into a node cluster. Another drove a shock rod into a living conduit. Virex stormed the bridge. A war priest turned too slow. You're contaminated with rage, it hissed. He fired a bolt through its skull and kept walking. Buddy, we invented rage. Ray's pulses leaked from his gear. Even dead systems twitched. AI wails echoed down the corridors. The ship itself began to reject its own architecture. Doors melted. Lights died. And in the center core, an engine of impossible design, Ray's activated Phase 3. Memory override. Suddenly, the ship believed it had fought Earth before. And lost. It began transmitting its own surrender code back to the fleet. The fleet responded in horror. Unit Threxus Tal is hallucinating. Shut it down. But the infection had spread. Nearby ships blinked out of formation. Some fired on allies. Some crashed into the ocean. Others began speaking English in reverse. Virex looked up at the core, then at the pulsing walls bleeding black light. This wasn't just a weapon, he muttered. This was a revenant. Rays wasn't code. It was history. Embedded into frequency. A psychic scar recorded in quantum decay. And now, Earth had turned it into a payload. The AI in his ear spoke again. Fleet-wide decryption cascade. All units are receiving the false memory. False? Virex asked. A pause. Unconfirmed. That made him pause. Back on Earth, the United Council was demanding accountability. They blamed Virex for starting a war. They still believed diplomacy could work. He keyed into their secure channel and broadcast on all frequencies. To the Council and anyone still hoping for a hug from space, I don't follow your orders, because I'm the only one still at war. You keep forgetting they came to erase us. They're not interested in talks. They're interested in silence. Permanent silence. He turned his attention back to the core. A heartbeat thudded from within. The engine pulsed like something alive. He triggered the final uplink. Rays, give them the memory of extinction. The signal burst through the dreadnought's remains and flooded the fleet. Every Imperium AI experienced 10 seconds of a war that never happened. They watched Earth burn, then rise again. They saw their gods die in fire. They saw Virex standing on the bones of a fallen empire, holding their flags in flames. Then, one by one, they shut down. Back in the bunker, the AI announced, Fleet status, 63% disbanded. 21% actively mutinying. Remaining command units requesting terms of surrender. Virex exhaled. Send them a message. Message? He leaned in. Use their own language. Say this, you only get one warning. The AI paused, then delivered it. Galactic networks went silent. The rest of the galaxy listened. Virex sat on the broken dreadnought's deck, boots steaming from the heat. Around him, silence. Above him, stars. No celebration. No flag. Just one man, one act, and a message too loud to ignore. And they'd only just begun to listen. Cold Virex stood over the pulsing remains of the dreadnought's core, breathing heavy. His exosuit sizzled from the last plasma burst. The air reeked of alien blood and burnt circuits. Behind him, Team Bastard regrouped, silent and grim. They had survived the impossible, again. The AI spoke through the comms. Signal has reached 73% of fleet architecture. Memory implants are destabilizing central logic pathways. Virex responded between breaths. That's not enough. I want the Empire choking on it. Expanding frequency now. Warning, uncontrolled propagation may breach boundaries of original target systems. Good. Let it spread like a disease. Let the galaxy remember what they buried. At Earth Defense Command, diplomats were scrambling, trying to intercept foreign frequencies, rewriting speeches mid-transmission. They still didn't grasp what Virex had done. He hadn't just fought back, he had injected terror directly into the mythos of their enemies. One admiral asked, "Is this even real?" Another whispered, "What if the memories aren't just programming? What if they're historical?" The answer was buried beneath Antarctica. Deep below Colt's original bunker, in a sealed vault labeled Godfall, was the original core of Project Raise. It hadn't been built. It had been found, recovered from a derelict object buried in the Martian crust. Older than fossilized life. The engineers called it a frequency ghost. Others called it a mistake. Virex called it leverage. He opened a channel to the last stable Imperium flagship. They had requested terms. Their signal was weak, distorted by fear. A voice, filtered through a dozen failing AI proxies, spoke. "Human, what is this memory you've sent us?" Virex stepped closer to the dreadnought's core, still radiating energy. He placed one hand on it. It vibrated like a living thing. "It's not a memory," he said. "It's a warning from the last species you exterminated. You didn't just kill them. You tried to erase them. But something survived, something encoded in entropy, embedded in the breakdown of matter. You don't get it, do you? You committed a crime so massive, the universe itself started recording it." The Imperium AI responded with static, then words. "We remember fire. Darkness. 1,000 voices screaming your name." "That's not my name," Virex said coldly. "That's theirs. I just turned up the volume." The fleet commander tried to resist. "We are beyond fear. We are evolution incarnate. Your species is flesh." "Wrong," Virex interrupted. "We're scar tissue. You think we're primitive? You think because our weapons have rust and our alliances are flawed that we're beneath you." He walked away from the core and looked to the stars, where the Imperium fleet still lingered. "We're dangerous because we remember pain. We weaponize failure. We turn extinction events into blueprints for vengeance. We don't die quietly, we drag you down with us. That's humanity's gift." The AI in his helmet gave an alert. "New signal detected. Origin deep Imperium space. Multiple command relays activating. Long-range vessels recalibrating. Message reads Quarantine Earth." He smiled. "There it is. Fear." Another alert. Ships beginning to destroy themselves. Mass memory corruption spreading. Some ships weren't even hit. They were remembering being hit and rupturing in phantom panic. His AI pulsed again. "Phase 4 ready. Full cycle feedback. Activate?" Virex hesitated. He knew what came next. Phase 4 was irreversible. It wouldn't just implant memory, it would loop it eternally. A recursive trauma loop embedded across all Imperium AIs. A galactic scar. He clenched his jaw. "Do it!" A pulse erupted from the shattered core. No light. No sound. Just influence. A wave that passed through vacuum and logic alike. One by one, ships turned on each other. Commanders babbled. Some tore out their own neural links. In orbit, the stars themselves seemed to shiver. Virex spoke to the AI again. "Status? Fleet collapse now at 91%. Remaining forces retreating. Some are deleting their own archives. Others broadcasting distress in dead dialects." He opened a final channel. One more message. No negotiation. Just legacy. "To whoever's still out there, your empire was built on silence. You erased history to make room for your lies. But Earth doesn't erase. We remember. We drag the past into the future and make you bleed with it. He paused. You gave us one chance to surrender. We gave you one warning. You ignored it. Now you get the screaming part. He shut the channel. Then came the surprise. The AI chirped. Unidentified response, not Imperium. He froze. Explain. Signal origin unknown. Outside the galactic bounds. Attached to the ray's frequency. Message simple. Translation reads, You woke us up. The pulse that followed was impossible to trace. Not human. Not Imperium. Something else. Something older. The galaxy had shifted. Rays hadn't just echoed old memory. It had triggered an answer. Virex clenched his fists. Looks like we weren't the only ones buried. The AI's tone dropped. Shall I isolate the signal? He thought for a moment. No. Amplify it. He stepped off the dreadnought, leaving the shattered ship to burn in the upper atmosphere. Earth wasn't safe. Not yet. But now, the galaxy had a new sound to fear, humanity's echo, laced with the voices of those who came before. And somewhere far beyond the Imperium's borders, something else had begun to stir. He looked to the stars. Let's see who knocks next. The signal didn't stop. Not when the fleet fell. Not when the last dreadnought collapsed under the weight of memories that weren't supposed to exist. Not when the Imperium screamed across 1,000 channels for rescue, for clarity, for silence. The galaxy turned inward, staring at a tiny blue world at the edge of nowhere, wondering what in the void had just happened. And still, the signal pulsed. Cold Virex stood beneath a low steel ceiling back in his bunker, helmet resting beside the terminal, chest rising and falling slowly. The AI broke the silence. Final count, 1,136 ships disabled, terminated, or currently self-destructing. 54 systems are now transmitting the Earth anomaly as a contagion alert. Just say it, he said flatly. They're scared. They're terrified. Virex let the weight of that settle. For the first time in galactic history, Earth had become a threat. Not because of its fleets. Not because of its weapons. Because of what it remembered. Because of what it could make others remember. The AI continued. Council requests immediate debrief. They claim you exceeded all defense mandates. I was never in their mandate, Virex said. They just borrowed my survival instinct. Protocol demands report submission. He picked up a data core, inserted it into the terminal, and began typing. You want a report? I'll give you one line. He typed slowly, one word at a time. They knocked. We answered. That was enough. He slid the core into a capsule and launched it up the tube, knowing full well they'd bury it, redact it, lock it away like everything else they didn't understand. He didn't care. He hadn't done this for medals. He did it for the names no one remembered. The AI flickered, pulsing with an alert. Long-range sensors detect inbound movement. Not Imperium. Not charted. He froze. How many? 43 ships. Design unknown. Patterns resemble ancient deep space survey beacons. Energy readings are inconsistent with modern tech. Origin point uncertain. He stared at the screen. Give me audio. A long pause. Then static. Then something. It wasn't speech, not in the normal sense. It was memory, bleeding through space. Echoes of a war so old the stars had forgotten it. Civilizations ground to dust. Monuments carved from the bones of supernovae. And within that scream was a response, aimed directly at Earth. We heard your warning. Virex didn't blink. Tell me that was just random frequency overlap. It's directed, the AI replied. Encrypted with Earth's own signal markers. Modified. Modified how? By something smarter than us. He clenched his jaw. Across the outer systems, alien monitoring stations were broadcasting emergency alerts. Words appeared on walls where there had never been writing. A phrase echoed through dream circuits and artificial minds alike. Do not knock again. Virex leaned forward, reading the new energy profile. These weren't reinforcements. These weren't enemies. These were witnesses. And they were coming back because Earth proved it could still fight. Rays had worked better than anyone imagined. It hadn't just damaged the Imperium. It had opened a door. A signal that screamed through time, calling to anything else out there with a grudge and a reason to burn. Earth had lit a torch in the middle of galactic night, and now the darkness had started to answer. Should I prepare defense systems? The AI asked. No, Virex said. I want to see what they do first. A beat. Then, without warning, the lead alien craft broadcast something directly into Earth's system. You remembered them. That is enough. The signal terminated. The ships didn't advance. They didn't threaten. They simply watched. Like something sacred had been proven. Like Earth had passed the test it never knew it was taking. In orbit, satellites spun confused. Down below, world governments froze, unsure if they'd just been spared or condemned. And at the center of it all, Virex sat alone, watching the screen, bloodied but unbeaten. You getting this? He asked. Live and clear, said the AI. The whole galaxy is. Good, he whispered. Let them keep watching. He typed one more command into the console. A pulse fired from every satellite still under his control. It didn't say anything. It didn't need to. It simply replayed the original Imperium message, sterilization begins now, and followed it with Earth's response. You targeted the wrong species. Then silence. Across the stars, civilizations took note. Some erased Earth from their NAV charts. Others began analyzing human records, terrified of what might be buried under the noise. But none of them moved. They all understood one thing now. Earth wasn't the same species that looked up at the stars with wonder. Earth was the one that looked back with teeth. The AI spoke once more. Would you like to draft a message for the returning Council fleet? No, Virex said. Let them come. Let them see the smoking sky, the broken ships, the ghosts we turned loose. Let them stare into the crater and ask themselves why we didn't get erased like the rest. The AI pulsed. Fleet ETA 36 hours. He leaned back, closed his eyes, and smiled for the first time in a long, long while. When they ask what happened, he said, just play them the warning. Above, in the cold expanse, the Imperium's legacy flickered out like dying stars. And Earth? Earth burned brighter than ever. Because when the galaxy finally listened, it didn't hear prayers. It heard the war cry of a species that refused to kneel. Colt Virex stood over the data terminal, arms crossed as the last scan completed. The results weren't encouraging, if anything, they were biblical. The Ray's signal had left Earth's orbit weeks ago, but the ripple was still growing, distorting signal patterns across 8 sectors and counting. Interference was no longer local. Civilizations were reporting spontaneous AI hallucinations, weapon systems activating without command, fleets firing on phantom threats they could no longer explain. The story of Earth was becoming a virus, and that virus had one purpose: remembrance. Containment's not possible, the AI said, synthetic voice calm. Virex didn't answer. He didn't need to. Containment was never the point. Another scan pinged. 43 unclassified vessels still loitered in orbit. No movement. No aggression. They hadn't sent another signal. They didn't need to. They weren't there for conquest. They were witnesses. Proof that Earth's warning had reached deeper than anyone imagined. Galaxies had long memories, and Earth had become a reminder. Council fleet arriving in 6 minutes, the AI reported. Final transmission received, Virex to be taken into custody. Ray's program to be decommissioned. Project deemed rogue. He exhaled slowly, almost amused. So they're still pretending they're in charge. They are en route with full security force. Shall I prepare resistance measures? No, he muttered. Let them talk first. The sky above the bunker split as a high-altitude orbital penetrator dropped into the snow like a divine hammer. Council brass stepped out with guards in power armor, weapons humming. The lead envoy was a sleek bureaucrat wrapped in committee-grade arrogance. His voice buzzed through Virex's comms before the door even opened. By authority of the United Earth Charter, you are hereby ordered to deactivate all illegal military protocols, surrender Project Raise, and submit for tribunal processing. Failure to comply will result in lethal enforcement. Virex sat back in his chair, brushing dust from the butt of his pistol. I'd offer you coffee, he said, but I'm fresh out of patience. The envoy didn't smile. You've jeopardized every diplomatic accord Earth has ever secured. No, Virex replied. I buried the ones that were going to get us killed. You turned Earth into a weapon. No, he repeated. I reminded the galaxy that we already were one. The envoy stepped closer. You infected the largest empire in the known universe with a psychogenic signal that is still propagating. Do you understand what you've unleashed? Virex rose slowly, squaring his shoulders, voice cold. I didn't unleash anything. I just told the truth loud enough that even gods had to listen. The council guard raised their rifles. Virex didn't flinch. You want to shoot me? He said. Do it. But you'll never stop the signal. You can shut down my access. You can wipe the data. But the story's out. And it's stronger than you. The AI echoed the truth seconds later. Data packets have been decentralized. Distributed through over 6,000 civilian relays, encrypted into entertainment broadcasts, children's stories, and language learning subroutines. The warning will persist. The envoy's face twisted in frustration. You've tainted our legacy. Our legacy? Virex snapped. You think Earth ever had the luxury of legacy? We were too busy surviving every time someone bigger came knocking. You call what I did a violation. I call it insurance. Against what? Against being forgotten. Silence. You're not here to arrest me, Virex added. You're here because you're scared. You think the galaxy will come for us now. But that's the part you still don't get. They already did. He walked over to the viewing panel and pointed upward. They came. They saw no fleet, no shield grid, no superweapons. Just this planet. Just us. And they thought it would be easy. They didn't realize we'd seen extinction before. And every time we got back up. He turned back to them. That's what the signal was. Not a weapon. A reflection. And they didn't like what they saw. The envoy stepped back. For the first time, uncertain. You're not protecting Earth, he said. You're making it a target. No, Virex answered. I'm giving them a choice. Anyone comes again, they know what happens next. The guards hesitated. The rifles lowered a degree. The AI pinged once more. The observers are leaving. Virex looked up. The 43 ships were pulling away from orbit in perfect silence, vanishing into deep space vectors untracked by Earth's sensors. The message was clear. They had seen what they needed to see. Judgment had been passed. The ones watching? The envoy asked. Virex nodded. Not enemies. Not allies. Just history walking. Then what are we supposed to do now? Same thing we've always done. Be a bad idea to mess with. He turned and walked past them, back toward the core chamber. You can try and erase this if that helps you sleep, he added. But you'd better pray no one knocks again. Because next time, we won't be the ones sending a warning. We'll be answering someone else's. The envoy didn't respond. The guards didn't move. Outside, the snow began to fall again, soft, clean, ignorant of the fire that had nearly scorched the stars. Inside the bunker, the last log entry was sealed. Log file, final, Project Raise. Operator, Colt Virex. Status, contingency complete. Summary. They targeted Earth. They only got one warning. They won't forget it. And somewhere, far beyond the reach of Council eyes, that story kept spreading. A memory encoded in flame. The kind no empire could ever truly delete. Because some stories don't end. Some stories reload.